Joining us now is from Surfside, Florida, is Patricia Mazzei. She's Miami bureau chief for the New York Times. She's been covering the story since the very beginning. Ms. Mazzei, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us tonight. I know this is an exhausting story.
Happy to be here to tell people's stories about it.
Well, help me understand where we are in the process. The thing that is gut-wrenching here is not only the known loss of life already, but the very large number of people who remain unaccounted for, and the fact that this is day 5. Obviously, the first 72 hours is seen as the sort of golden period, that sort of best window for hopes of finding people alive. Day 5, it is starting to feel like a very, very scary situation.
Yeah, I think over the weekend, especially after the sort of initial frustration from the families about not knowing exactly what was happening, they were able to see up close. They were taken to as close to the site as they could get to sort of witness the search efforts themselves. And they saw the hundreds of people who are working near the pile. They saw this labyrinth of tunnels and machinery that is now working there, and they were able to sort of have a private moment there to grieve. So I think that has led to officials starting to ease them into the idea, as horrible as it is, that that this is going to be a long, painstaking process, and that what they might find are, human remains, but that it's going to be very, very difficult. The rescue workers I've spoken to talk about just the enormity of it being very different from anything they've had to work before in terms of the number of possible fatalities. And they describe really harrowing situations where they find one floor just barely a couple of feet from another floor. Normally there would be about 10 feet between the ceiling and the floor of one story of the building. And now we're talking about maybe 2 feet, 1 foot of spacing. So it's just really terrible, everything we hear coming out of the site.
Can you tell us a little bit about how officials arrived at this, as I said, this sort of terrifying number that there may be as many as 150 people who are unaccounted for now, 5 days into this? How confident are they in that number? Obviously, it looms as a theoretical potential death toll when this is all over.
They still call it a very fluid number. They have not been willing to release the names on it because they fear it's not entirely correct yet. They've depended on families to come forward and report their loved ones missing and file, formal paperwork saying that. And so the question is, there's a big international community in South Florida. Have they reached everybody who might be abroad in other countries? Are there language barriers? But it's really been a process of relying on the families to come forward. And just yesterday, they were saying they didn't think they had heard from all the families of the missing yet, and they wanted their information. They wanted their DNA to be swabbed so that they could make comparisons with any remains that they find. So it's sort of a slow process, and one that they don't have, complete confidence in being completely correct. I think we would all love to think that a lot of these people are sort of on vacation somewhere and not following the news, but I don't know that that's the case.
In terms of the ongoing efforts, the rescue and recovery efforts, it's been interesting to see international teams come in, teams from other countries and teams from around the United States that have specialized expertise, specialized equipment. Can you give us any sense of how dangerous the rescue and recovery efforts are? Obviously, these are specialized teams and they know what they're doing, but some of the pace of it, I think, obviously, like you said, they've got an enormous. The enormity of the task is daunting. But are they themselves at risk for potential further collapse while they're on site on the pile?
That was a particular concern early on. It still is, but early on they really had no idea what they were facing, and they were going through the bottom through these tunnels because they thought that that was the best chance that they would have to find what they call voids, which are empty spaces where they might find life. And so they started at the bottom, drilling through bit by bit and shoring up the concrete so that the rescue workers themselves wouldn't be injured. We did hear today, which is a frightening thought, of one of the rescue workers sort of falling down the mound 25 feet. We were also told there were no serious injuries, but these teams travel with trauma surgeons in large part to protect the workers, because it is very dangerous, because they don't know if there's going to be a secondary collapse. And when there were those conditions of fire and thunderstorms and rain and sort of things that could destabilize the pile, that was of extra concern.